So picture two rural farming communities,
Mm,
specifically in Western Kenya.
right.
And they're geographically right next to each other. I mean,
Right.
they share the exact same climate, the exact same rainfall patterns, soil quality, topography, everything.
Literally identical environments.
Exactly. And the families in both communities are navigating the exact same macroeconomic conditions, identical levels of overarching poverty.
Yeah, same baseline for everyone.
But if you walk into the first community, you observe this striking level of, well, civic success. You see a thriving primary school.
With actual infrastructure.
Right. The roof is solid iron. There are adequate desks for the students.
Oh.
And right outside, there is a fully functioning deep water borehole well, pumping clean drinking water.
Which is huge.
It's massive. This is a community that has successfully pooled its own really scarce hard-earned capital to build and maintain these projects.
Yeah, it's a total success story.
But then, and here's the hook, you take a short walk down the dirt road into the neighboring community, and the picture completely shatters.
It's just night and day.
The primary school there is in a state of visible decay. The desks are broken or just missing entirely. And that deep water well, it is bone dry.
Completely abandoned, right?
Yeah, the pump handle is broken, parts are missing. It's just dead. So you have the same geography, the same economy, the same government.
Same everything.
So what is the invisible force building up the first village and completely dismantling the public goods in the second?
It's a really stark, almost haunting mystery when you see the data laid out like that. Because on paper, they should have the exact same outcomes.
But they don't.
They don't. And the answer to why they diverge so drastically is honestly one of the most fascinating, counterintuitive, and frankly uncomfortable revelations in modern behavioral economics.
It's going to feel like a slap in the face of a lot of traditional theories.
Oh, absolutely. The difference ultimately comes down to the invisible economy of shame.
Okay, let's unpack this mechanism, because our mission for this deep dive is to explore a truly groundbreaking study.
Yeah, from researchers at UC Berkeley and the University of Washington.
Right, economists Edward Miguel and Mary Kay Gugerty. They published this in the Journal of Public Economics, and it answers this exact puzzle.
It looks specifically at how ethnic diversity impacts the funding and maintenance of local public goods.
But, and I need to be really clear with you, the listener, right up front here, we are not talking about the traditional narratives of outright violence or warfare.
No, there's no explicit ethnic hatred driving this.
Exactly. We are talking about something much more subtle, the quiet collapse of a community's ability to socially sanction its own people.
What's so profound about Miguel and Gugerty's work is that they isolate the actual mechanical gears of human cooperation.
Because we usually assume people just chip in for a well out of the goodness of their hearts, right?
Right, altruism. But game theory shows us that cooperation actually requires friction. It requires a mechanism of enforcement.
So for you listening, we need you to set a baseline for this deep dive. Put aside your standard assumptions about local democracy and community funding.
Yeah, forget whatever you think you know about diversity and social capital.
We are going to hit you with some deeply unexpected, paradoxical facts today. So we are diving deep into the Busia and Teso districts of Western Kenya.
And to really understand the gravity here, we first have to ask why these researchers chose this specific region.
Because there's a huge methodological hurdle in economics, right?
A massive one. It's called endogeneity bias, or sorting.
Let's break that down for people who aren't in academia.
Sure. In most modern societies, causality is a two-way street. So if a public school is exceptionally good, people who prioritize education,
Or who hit more money.
exactly, they will actively choose to move into that school district.
Which completely ruins your data.
It totally ruins it. You can't mathematically prove if the school is high quality because of the demographics, or if the demographics are there because the school is already high quality.
Because people just move around so much.
Right. In the US or Western Europe, residential mobility is incredibly high, so you can't prove causality.
To bypass this sorting bias, Miguel and Gugerty needed a very specific environment. They needed a laboratory.
A place where residential mobility was essentially zero.
And they found it. A 100-year frozen laboratory in Western Kenya.
The historical context here is just wild.
It really is. In Busia and Teso, the ethnic boundaries were forged back in the late 19th century.
Yeah, an era of massive migrations and conflicts among the Luya, the Luo, the Teso.
It was super fluid. But then the music stopped. The map was frozen.
1994. That is the defining moment.
Her 1894, right?
Oh, yes, 1894. My bad. That's when the British colonial authority established its presence.
And to stop intertribal conflicts, the British literally demarcated what they called African land units.
They drew hard, static borders around where the groups were residing at that exact moment.
Like freeze tag on a geopolitical scale.
Exactly. And then post-colonial land registration locked those borders in permanently.
But it wasn't just a legal freeze. It became a profound cultural freeze.
Yeah, because clan traditions retain massive control over land disposition there.
You can't just throw up a for sale sign in your front yard.
No way. Selling clan land requires explicit approval from extended relatives and clan elders.
Which is almost impossible to get, especially if the buyer's from an outside ethnic group.
So formal land markets are incredibly thin. People just do not move.
The researchers looked at census data from 1962 all the way to 1996. The diversity index was practically identical.
30-plus years, no movement. They even surveyed over 500 local households in the 90s.
Out of 500, how many had bought or sold land recently?
Only 3 respondents.
3.
And even those 3 likely just bought a small parcel from a cousin next door.
The residential stability is absolute, which, for an economist, is the holy grail.
Because it completely eliminates the sorting bias. If a diverse community has a failing school, we know it's not because people recently moved there.
Right. They've been glued to those exact coordinates for a century, like being on an airplane where the seatbelt sign has been on for 100 years.
You can't just move to first class.
So the variables are controlled. We have this frozen map. So what happens to the money when a community is diverse versus uniform?
This is where we see the invisible hemorrhage of public goods.
The researchers looked at 84 different primary schools, and they used this thing called an ELF index.
The Ethno-Linguistic Fractionalization Index.
Okay, I want to pause here because understanding this is crucial. How does the math work on an ELF index?
It calculates the probability that 2 randomly selected individuals from an area will belong to different ethno-linguistic groups.
So if a school community is 100% Luhya,
the ELF score is 0, absolute homogeneity, 0% chance they are from different tribes.
but if it's perfectly split, like 50% Luhya, 50% Luo.
The score jumps to 0.5, a 50% chance of difference.
So they calculated this for every school and compared it to the local funding.
Because these schools don't get a blank check from the government. They rely on parent-driven local funding for textbooks, chalk, fixing roofs.
And the results are just mathematically startling.
Truly. Moving from a completely uniform school to a school with just an average level of ethnic diversity
Just average diversity, right?
results in a sheer, unexplainable 20% drop in local funding per student.
20%. That is a crippling hemorrhage of capital,
About 29 shillings per pupil at the time of the study.
which might not sound like a lot to a Western listener, but the purchasing power is huge.
Yeah, 29 shillings per pupil is enough to double a school's entire library book stock in just 2 years.
And it just vanishes. Desks per pupil drop by 20%. Latrines drop. Structurally sound classrooms drop.
The whole educational environment just evaporates.
But it's not just schools. It's a matter of life and death. The water infrastructure.
From 1982 to 91, an NGO called Kafinco came in to solve the clean water crisis.
Let's define a Kafinco well, because this isn't a bucket on a rope.
No, these are sophisticated deep water boreholes, mechanical hand pumps, PVC piping, rubber seals, concrete aprons.
Heavy machinery stuff. Kafinco installed them and then handed operational responsibility to the local communities.
The communities had to form water committees, collect maintenance fees, and hire mechanics when parts wore out.
So the researchers physically map 667 of these wells using GPS. They overlay the ELF diversity index. And what happens?
In diverse areas, the probability of a well functioning normally drops by 6 full percentage points.
The metal pump handles go missing. Protective covers disappear.
And nobody pays to fix them. Overall, only 57% of the wells in the study were working normally.
It's an institutional death spiral. But I have to push back here because intuitively, you'd assume this is just overt conflict.
They're actively fighting.
Yeah, like a Luhya family refusing to pay because they hate the Luo tribe, or someone smashing the pump handle in the middle of the night out of spite.
It's the most common baseline assumption, but it's completely unsupported by reality here.
There are no ethnic wars happening in Busia and Teso.
None. Anthropologist reports note occasional, low-level bickering in workplaces, but no violent conflict disrupting fundraising.
No one is smashing the wills out of malice. The killer here is entirely silent and invisible.
So if it's not violence, Western economists usually pivot to their favorite excuse, the preference theory.
Oh yes, we are about to shatter some deeply entrenched academic excuses.
The logic usually goes, Tribe A wants the school to teach in their native language, Tribe B wants the opposite.
So because they disagree on what to buy, neither side pays.
Right, cooperation breaks down due to misaligned preferences.
But Miguel and Gugerty's data absolutely destroys this. They surveyed over 2,000 individual parents.
And they asked them what factors mattered most when choosing a school.
Guess how many cared about ethnic or language preferences? Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. It's a statistical non-factor.
78% just want a school that is physically close to home.
So kids don't have to walk miles in the heat.
Exactly. 7% want good academics, 7% want low fees. Everyone wants the exact same thing.
Then a preference theory completely fails on the water walls anyway.
Because water doesn't have an ethnicity.
Exactly. Clean drinking water is not subjective. Everyone wants it so their kids don't die of cholera.
Yet the diverse wells still break down. So the preference theory is a lie. What about the poverty lie?
Yes. The assumption that diverse areas are just poorer, so they literally don't have the shillings to pay.
Omitted variable bias. Maybe diversity is just a proxy for localized extreme poverty.
But the researchers anticipated this. They measured tangible physical wealth across thousands of pupils.
Because you can't just look at bank accounts in a rural economy.
No, you look at physical assets. Do they have iron sheet roofs, a dedicated latrine, how much livestock?
And the results across the Luhya, Teso, and Luo tribes are practically statistical clones.
Nearly identical assets. Iron roofs were around 23 to 30% for all groups.
Latrine ownership was in the 80s across the board. Livestock ownership was practically identical, around 80%.
Even parental education levels were uniform. Fathers averaged 7.5 years of school across all three groups.
It's a completely level economic playing field.
So they have the exact same amount of money, and they want the exact same things.
It makes absolutely no rational sense. It's like friends splitting a dinner bill where everyone has the same cash, everyone ordered the same food, but the bill never gets paid.
So the real question is, what is the hidden force generating successful cooperation in the uniform areas?
Right, what are the diverse areas missing? And the answer was in decades of handwritten meeting minutes.
This is a masterclass in qualitative data coding.
Every primary school has a local committee, right?
Uh-huh.
Elected parents and elders.
And the headmaster has to handwrite detailed minutes of every single meeting. Who was there? What was discussed?
The researchers got the physical archives for 84 schools. Decades of notes.
And they coded thousands of entries.
But wait, I have to be skeptical. Couldn't a headmaster just lie in these notes?
To make themselves look better for a ministry audit.
Exactly. If the school is failing, why write down the bad stuff?
It's a fair challenge. But these were internal notes written long before any economists showed up. Plus, the researchers used double-blind coding.
And what they were looking for wasn't self-congratulatory stuff. They were looking for friction.
And they found it. The secret fuel of community cooperation in rural Africa is the currency of shame.
Social sanctions.
15% of all committee discussions were exclusively about how to apply mental, social, and reputational pressure to defaulting parents.
Well, because there are no FICO scores. You can't hire a debt collector or go to a cheap small claims court over 150 shillings.
The only law enforcing contracts is reputation.
Let's paint a picture of this, because it's not just a stern talking to. It's the Harambe.
The Swahili word for let us pull together. It's a massive, festival-like public fundraiser.
Everyone attends. Politicians, businessmen. There's food, cheering. But the core is public pledging of money.
And it is not anonymous.
No. Imagine you haven't paid. The headmaster stands up in front of the whole village, opens his ledger, and reads your name aloud.
John owes 200 shillings. Active naming and shaming.
10 out of 12 headmasters interviewed openly admitted they do this specifically to embarrass parents and incite the community to bully them into paying.
The parents who have paid become very bitter toward the defaulters, and the committee leverages that.
They send warning letters, have church leaders call you out during Sunday sermons.
They even do personal confrontational visits to your home with the local village chief.
This isn't just a passive-aggressive email from the PTA. This is the threat of having your entire social safety net completely deleted.
Yeah, what does social exile actually mean there? Your ethnic kinship network is your literal survival mechanism.
You lose your clan's mutual aid. your informal crop insurance.
If drought hits, your kin group is the only thing feeding you. They regulate access to grazing land and water.
They mediate disputes. If someone steals your cow, the clan elders handle it.
If you are shamed at the Harambee as a freeloader, you lose all of that. You lose status in marriages, burials. It's existential exile.
It is a brutal, highly effective social credit system. It's the psychological glue holding the school roof up.
So we know the weapon. The core fuel is inescapable social pressure.
Which brings us to the cross-cultural chasm, the most mind-blowing statistic in this whole deep dive.
What happens when this weapon is deployed in a diverse neighborhood?
Logically, the diverse schools, the ones with broken desks and dry wells, desperately need to force people to pay.
You'd assume they are reading names at the Harambee constantly.
But the data shows the diverse schools record 31% fewer sanctions than the uniform schools.
31% fewer. They have the weapon, but they refuse to pull the trigger.
Why does the weapon jam?
Because social sanctions rely entirely on dense inter-tribe networks. A Luhya headmaster cannot effectively shame a Luo parent.
Why not? He can yell at them at the Harambee, right?
He can yell, but the yell has no teeth. He has zero power to cut off the Luo parent's clan insurance.
He doesn't control the Luo tribal elder network.
Exactly. Across ethnic lines, the mechanism of shame is completely powerless.
It's like trying to cancel someone on a social media app they don't even use.
There's an interview with the headmaster of Bududa Primary School. It's predominantly Luhya, but has a Luo minority.
And he just stares helplessly across this divide.
He says he has insurmountable difficulties raising funds from the Luo community, but he clarifies there's no bad blood.
No violence. He just has no leverage. The threats that work on Luhya parents bounce right off Luo parents.
This introduces a foundational concept in game theory: the rational free rider.
If you are a minority parent, you are structurally immune to the majority's social pressure.
So your most logical move is to stay in the diverse school and just not pay?
People assume minorities would just build their own schools if diversity is failing.
But why would they? If they build their own homogenous school, their own headmaster would be in charge.
And he could successfully shame them into paying.
Exactly. By staying in a diverse school, they act as rational free riders. They get to use the desks, their wives use the clean water, and they don't pay a single shilling.
The cost of contributing is high, but the social penalty for not contributing is zero. It's the ultimate read receipt dodge.
Perfect analogy.
Like if I'm in a small family group chat and my sister says, chip in $50 for mom's gift, I have to pay. If I don't, Thanksgiving is ruined.
The social sanction is inescapable.
But if I'm in a WhatsApp chat with 300 random strangers and someone says, let's buy a gift for the speaker, I just turn off notifications.
Zero consequences to your daily life. That is exactly what's happening in Western Kenya, but with critical infrastructure.
But the tragic part is, when the minority free rides, the majority realizes they're subsidizing the minority.
And their own incentive to pay degrades? The whole system unravels into zero contribution.
The well breaks, nobody fixes it, the money vanishes. So you'd assume the test scores in these diverse schools are completely tanking.
Right. 20% less funding, you'd expect disaster. But the data reveals a cruel twist.
The test score paradox.
The standardized test scores for grades 3 through 8 are basically statistically identical between the failing diverse schools and the fully funded uniform schools.
Wait, is this a happy ending? Does the money just not matter for learning?
No, it's the furthest thing from a happy ending. It exposes how the national curriculum is fundamentally structured.
It's highly biased, right?
Intensely centralized and biased. It's designed almost exclusively to cater to a tiny elite fraction of students.
The ones destined to pass the national exams and go to secondary school.
Exactly. It's a sieve, not a ladder. For the average kid, the curriculum moves too fast and is disconnected from the reality.
So having 2 extra textbooks or 0 extra textbooks doesn't change their fate.
They are structurally designed to fail regardless of the resources.
Wow, that is bleak. Which brings us to the grand government illusion.
Yeah, where is the national government in all this?
Why are impoverished farmers funding their own schools?
It's a massive sleight of hand by the Central Ministry of Education. They act like a corporate headquarters.
They pay for the highly visible teachers' salaries.
But by doing that, they quietly offload 90% of all local infrastructure and operational costs onto the local communities.
The Harambee movement, which gets praised as local democracy, is actually a scam to offload costs.
And these fragile communities inevitably shatter under the weight of diversity because they lack the tools to enforce that crowdsourced taxation.
So shouldn't the government just abolish the Harambee and pay for everything centrally?
If you centralize vast amounts of capital without a strong national identity, that budget just becomes a political war prize for whoever is president.
The centralization trap. The data on Kenyan road funding proves this insanely well.
From 1979 to 80, President Jomo Kenyatta, a Kikuyu, was in power.
And 44% of all national road funds went to his ethnic homeland.
Then he's replaced by Daniel Arap Moi, a Kalenjin. By 1987, Kikuyu funding plummets to 16%.
And Kalenjin funding rockets to 57%. It's a complete seesaw of state-sponsored corruption.
So decentralization breaks due to diversity, but centralization just loots the treasury for the president's cousins.
Is diversity just an inescapable curse then?
Not necessarily. We have to look at the neighboring nation of Tanzania as a counterexample.
What did Tanzania do differently to escape this?
Their first post-independence president, Julius Nyerere, recognized this exact ethnic trap.
So he initiated the Ujamaa policies.
He systematically dismantled the power of local tribal chiefs. And more importantly, he pushed a single unifying national language.
Swahili.
Right. Swahili in all public schools, government functions, national broadcasts.
He actively downplayed localized tribal languages.
He even posted civil servants outside their ethnic homelands to force integration.
He essentially forced the country to merge their networks and build a massive, overarching national identity.
And modern economic research shows it worked. Tanzania avoids many of the extreme ethnic penalties on public goods that plague its neighbors.
They prove diversity isn't a permanent curse if the state actively builds cross-cultural trust.
You have to build a new, larger clan that everyone belongs to.
You make the group chat bigger, but make everyone feel like family. That is incredibly powerful.
The mechanics of human cooperation are delicate. We don't just cooperate out of pure altruism.
We rely on the threat of social exclusion, the fear of losing our safety net.
And when that network of consequences doesn't cross the ethnic divide, public goods just crumble.
Which brings me to a final thought for you, the listener. We've spent this time talking about rural Kenyan farming communities and water wells.
It can feel like a distant academic puzzle.
But I want you to look at your own life right now. Look at the modern internet. Look at our sprawling global cities.
It's all connected.
The digital world we inhabit today is, in essence, just one massive, hyper-diverse, completely borderless version of Busia and Teso.
A giant global group chat.
Exactly. For decades, we relied on informal consensus and the subtle threat of shaming to maintain order in our physical neighborhoods.
But online, that's completely breaking down.
As we move online, we become infinitely more fragmented. Our shared social networks dissolve into anonymous algorithmic feeds, and the informal power of shame is totally collapsing.
Because you can't effectively sanction someone on the internet.
Right. They just log off, change their username, or retreat into their own isolated digital tribe where they are totally immune to your consequences.
The cross-cultural chasm that the Luya headmaster faced is now a global phenomenon.
So I leave you with this question to chew on. When the invisible bonds of local social pressure finally break completely in our modern, hyper-diverse digital world, are our global public institutions, our shared truths, and our digital commons destined to dry up and fall apart, quietly and without a sound, just like the abandoned water wells in the Kenyan wasteland.